While Democrats are ranting and raving about the role and activities of Elon Musk and his government efficiency department, Republicans are working through plans on budget reconciliation and debt ceiling. In fact, last night, Senator Rick Scott of Florida hosted a dinner for a group of House and Senate Republicans to discuss these and other issues. And earlier today, a group of House Republicans met with President Trump as well. Are Republicans nearing an agreement on the way forward when it comes to reconciliation? Joining me now to discuss this and much more, Congressman Marlin Stutzman, a member of the House Budget Committee and the Financial Services Committee. He represents the 3rd Congressional District of Indiana. Congressman Stutzman, welcome back to Washington Watch. Good to see you.
Thank you, Tony. It's great to be with you at the prayer breakfast yesterday morning. And it's good to be back in D.C. as well.
Yes, I appreciate you being there yesterday to pray and to be a part of that event. It was good to see you there and so many of your colleagues. Let's talk first reconciliation. Then I want to get into some of the president's comments today. But are we close? I was talking to the speaker Tuesday night, and it sounded like we were getting a little closer. Are we there yet?
Yeah, we are. Every hour that goes by right now, we're just a little closer. And, one of the things that I really want to applaud Speaker Mike Johnson for his leadership. It's, quite different. I was here from 2010 to 2017, and it was a different type of leadership style. And there's a little bit of, there's a different style that Speaker Johnson has, and that's because he's listening to everybody. He's trying to bring everybody together. And then once there's consensus, there will be an announcement, and I know the halls of the DC press and mainstream media are always clamoring for some little bit of information, but, we're working hard to find the right spot at the right time. And, one thing we all agree on is that Washington has a bloated government. Washington has a bloated budget. We have too much debt. Just to give you an idea, Tony, when I was first elected in 2010, we had right at $9 trillion worth of debt. When I left in 2017, it was $18 trillion. Today, it's $36 trillion. It's nice to be back, not to deal with that much debt, but to hear our leadership in the White House actually say, this is a problem that we have to deal with. We just always got lip service before when it was President Obama. Of course, COVID really disrupted a lot of those efforts under the last Trump administration. Of course, Joe Biden had no regard for what the debt was. So that's why this is such an important lift, to make sure that we get these numbers right and that there's going to be real cuts and not just more talk and no action.
Marla, let me ask you about the speaker style, because I think that's important, because we hear people saying, well, you just got to make a decision, go with it. But if you go back, there was a lot of complaining about the fact that deals were made in the back room. Yep. The members were not even a part of it. It was rolled out for them, and they don't have an opportunity to represent their constituents because they weren't even able to debate bills on the House floor. And now it's a slow process. It's a deliberative process. But members of Congress who are elected to represent their people feel like they have a seat at the table.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Tony. And I was here during those days when things were thrown at us on our desk and we were expected to vote on them. Many of us felt like the process was broken. But again, it really comes back to the leadership, making sure that every voice is heard. And you know what? We all, there's 220 of us. And so we all have different districts that we represent across the country. But I can tell you, Tony, that it feels to me as a returning member after 8 years that we're much closer together as a conference than we are apart. And I believe that's really due to Speaker Johnson's leadership and making sure everybody's heard. Yeah, there's times when somebody gets stirred up or frustrated, but that's just part of the process. And Speaker Johnson has really been a listening ear, and he's gathering the information. He's got great resources. And of course, he's got a president at the White House that's ready to start making reforms to this government that's been desperately needed, and a DOJ committee that's already acting and starting to make those cuts.
Speaking of the president, I don't know if he signed it yet because he was delayed. The meeting went a little bit longer with the members than anticipated, but he made this announcement this morning. He was supposed to sign an executive order this afternoon creating this new task force to combat anti-Christian targeting and discrimination within the federal government and throughout the country. Your reaction to that?
I was there at the prayer service this morning and heard the president speak. And as I told somebody, I said, it's like we can breathe again, and people can actually relax, because the tension that has been created by the previous Democrat administration was that you couldn't even voice your opinion without being canceled. And that's what I think people should know, that, there's going to be some on the left to say, oh, you know what, now we're going to be targeting those that you disagree with. That's not what we do. And it's, I think, important, and we've seen it. And, this isn't just for the Christian faith, but the president has also said we're going to protect those of the Jewish faith, and the anti-Semitism that we've seen growing across the country on college campuses has just been appalling. And so I think it's important that every American knows that, America is founded on Christian Judeo principles, but we respect people of all faiths, but we ask for the same in return.
Right. And I think it's important that we take this moment to exercise those freedoms that are being protected by the government. The president, in his remarks this morning, said, we're bringing God back. Well, I don't think he was ever gone, but
Right.
we didn't respect him the way we should. And government can't do that. I want to be very clear. No one that is a follower of Jesus Christ wants the government to advance religion. What they do want is government not to persecute or prosecute, as they have under the Biden administration, people who live out their faith. We want to be able to impact the world around us by being free to live and follow the teachings of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, 100% agree. And that's why I believe it's so important for freedom of religion. We believe in the free market system, and that's where we see people out, competing for business and, making their case why they should buy their product over another product. And not that religion is a product, but I believe that it's important, as we talk, that every person of faith has the opportunity, or even of no faith, has the opportunity to speak freely about it. And then, each person can make up their mind what they choose to believe. And, just because America is a strong Christian nation at its core, doesn't mean that it's a hateful country at all. It's actually, Christians are called to love. And that's one of the things that I'm excited about, that we can show love to everyone and we can respect one another and not be canceled for it.
Yeah, I just got news, Marlon, that the president has signed that executive order eradicating anti-Christian bias. And to your point, in fact, I think today the left has rallies at state capitals across the country. And you know what? I celebrate their right to do that peacefully.
Sure, that's right.
I do not have at all a problem with people gathering peacefully to express themselves. That's what makes America work. That's what
it does.
And without that, and we haven't had that, quite frankly. And people, when they're repressed, they get angry, and that leads to outcomes that are not positive. So we need that freedom to speak, no matter what the view might be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's what makes America such a great nation, and where ideas can compete with each other, and where we have the freedom of discussion. I tell you, Tony, there's nothing more invigorating to me than to talk with somebody that I disagree with, but we walk away, and that we can at least agree to disagree, and we can say, what, I look forward to talking to you again sometime. And we're not going to pound people over the head with a Bible. I don't think that's what God calls us to do at all. In fact, God calls us to love and to care for one another. But also at the same time, we should have the ability and the right, every person to have the right to talk about their faith freely and not fear being canceled. And I think the important thing that President Trump signed today is that a person in government can't especially be the one to cancel or have any sort of ability to shut out person of faith.
And we've seen that. That was very evident, and the record shows that that was occurring in the Biden administration. And to your point, when we can have, I've been around long enough. I remember the day when we used to have debates left and right, and we would discuss these issues on cable news networks. And, they would sometimes be, pretty vibrant discussions, but we could discuss, and we didn't want to silence one another. And of course, on the right, I don't think we care to silence people, because the truth can win out if we have a chance to talk about it.
Right. Well, and one thing that the president, he made a point today that I thought was very important. There are going to be times when we just disagree. And let's take, for example, boys playing in girls' sports. Some people think that's okay, but I'll tell you, the majority of Americans don't believe that that's okay, and I don't believe that's okay. But if that's what you want to think, well, that's fine. But at the same time, we're going to collectively make a decision because we have to. Somebody has to make a decision whether that's going to be allowed or not. And I applaud the president. And this is something that my wife, who is actually serving in the state legislature, back in 2019 carried a bill in the Indiana legislature prohibiting boys playing in girls' sports. But somebody's got to make a decision on that. And you know what? There's going to be a lot of people. In fact, it's amazing to me that the Democrat Party is still tripping up over that particular issue. They're still infighting on that issue. But it's common sense.
Right.
I mean, not only is it a biblical, but it's also just common sense.
It does become harder to reach consensus when you have one side that completely denies truth. It does become difficult, but we can still have civil conversations. Congressman Marlin Stutzman, great to have you back on the program. Good to see you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.